What's up again, everybody? The brand new hero Uzuri has made an absolute splash in the competitive scene and is poised to do some work in the current meta here at the upcoming Pro Tour Baltimore. So if you're interested in picking up Uzuri, you've come to the right place, because today we're going to break down the core of the classic constructed deck, talk about how this most popular archetype plays, what it wants to do, and what the benefits of this are. Before we get too far into it though, this video is sponsored by none other than MinMax Games. Hey, do you like cards? Do you like card games? Card games are cool, right? You know who else likes card games? MinMax Games, and they sponsor this channel. They are a fantastic company, and they want to support you and get you the cards that you want, whether it be Flesh and Blood like me, or Magic the Gathering, or Pokemon, or they probably even have Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's be honest, that's a pretty popular game as well. If you're looking to pick up something card game related, they have exactly what you need, and you should support them. I have a link down in the description below that you can find their info on. Go pick up some of their brand new sale stuff. They have currently their spring cleaning, and they are selling some sweet bundles of Flesh and Blood boxes of like different booster box sets. So if you just like to pick up booster boxes, they've got sweet deals. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. A real quick, kind of quick and dirty explanation on Uzuri Switchblade so that you can kind of understand what she does and how she operates. She is an assassin hero that has 4 intellect, 40 health. She has an effect that says once per turn attack reaction, banish a card from your hand face down. So you're going to take a card, banish it off to the side face down, wait for responses from your opponent, at which point you are then going to turn the card banished this way face up. If it's an attack action card with 2 or less cost, you're going to swap it with the stealth card that you're reacting on. So remember, this is happening in the reaction step of an attack you've made. So you attack with a stealth card, you react on top of it, you swap that out with a 2 or less cost attack, and then that is now attacking in place. This has happened after blocks have been declared, so in essence, if your opponent does not double block this or triple block this with cards from hand in the blocking portion, they can't come out with extra blocks unless they have reactions. And sometimes they can't even do that, and that's pretty cool. So now that we understand how her hero effect functions, let's break down the core of this aggressive list that has been top 8ing at recent events. Now, I put this together based on a variety of lists that I looked at, but the 2 that I want to draw your attention to the most are these 2. This is the Realm Games Sam Dando Chicago Brawl list, where he got top 4, and we're going to talk a little bit about this list and a little bit about the list right here, the Azareth Strife. By the way, was totally in a chat watching some Flesh and Blood with this individual, and I was like, oh hey, I recognize your name because you top 8'd in Richmond, which was kind of funny. But this was from the top 8 for the Battle Hardened in Richmond. But we're going to compare these 2 lists and the other lists that I've looked at, and I compiled all of those into this core. So let's quickly break down the overall equipment suite that we see a lot of people playing, and for good reasons. We have Black Tech Whisperers, which is just a fantastic 1 block. You may be able to recur. It does give any assassin attack action card if it hits go again, which is kind of nice, and it's also just a battle worn block 1. So you do have some capacity to give, you know, the go again there and get the thing back. You could also run Snapdragon Scalers, which I think is a fantastic pick, but that has been mostly relegated to the sideboard because blocking 1 is just pretty good. Speaking of blocking 1, blocking 2 is better, and being able to like sculpt your hand from your arsenal perhaps is even better than that. This card is a staple almost everywhere, and so you would kind of expect to see Crown of Providence here. It blocks 2, it's just really, really good. I'm going to skip over Flick Knives for a second because I want to talk about the other staple of the game, and that's Fiendel's Spring Tunic. We make decent use of this effect throughout the list. Depending on how you build the list, you can make better use of it than others, but we can always use this with one of our sideboard cards into specific matchups, and that would be Vambrace of Determination if our opponent happens to be an old man that likes to go real slow. So we can stop the ability to use the Crown of Seeds by taking the Tunic resource and Vambracing. And you play a nice little dance back and forth that some people like and some people think is bad, but you play a dance back and forth of whether or not you're going to use yours to make them use theirs to make them use yours, and just back and forth. But it does have some other uses depending on how you build the deck. Flick Knives is just the auto include. It also blocks 1, it blade breaks, but you could also chuck a dagger at your opponent if you're playing towards the end game. But if you don't want to do that, you could also just block 1 with it. And then finally, everyone's basically running Nerve Scalpel because it's got the standard dagger effect, and it affects reaction cards, or the other one that is often run is non-attack cards, which we don't see represented in this core list. But I do want to point out Scale Peeler is a fantastic sideboard option. And then the staple of staples is Spider's Bite. Spider's Bite is a fantastic little dagger. This is the preeminent dagger that you probably swing with because almost everybody has attack action cards. The Orbitoclast is the non-attacks, and some people are running that, but more often than not, people run the Nerve Scalpel because it just really can nuke your opponent's defense reactions. And also you can chuck it with Flick Knives on a key turn. And that's a really funny thing to think about, but you can really actually just do that. Okay, so let's talk about the core of the actual deck and what it wants to do. We are playing a very efficient, very easy to block with deck. And this deck core is made up of anywhere between, well, let's see, 42 or 41 and 50 cards, okay? And the reason I say 41 and 50 is because some people think about Shred as an auto-include, and then they take out some number of shreds per matchup. Some people think about it as a purely sideboard card and add in based on the matchup. Doesn't really matter how you think about it, you're just gonna run some number of shreds, any number up to 9 and down to 0 in your main board in any given matchup. But everything else here is basically pure core cards that don't really ever come out. I included the shreds just because you can take it or leave it. So a lot of people, and this is just funny to me, a lot of people are running double backstab but not 3, and that is hilarious because I think people are just doing that because Sam Dando's list ran 2 and not 3. So everyone's like, look, he's got the sweet tech, so we're gonna run 2 as well. But this is Sam Dando's list, runs 2 of these backstabs. Same thing with Azareth Strife's top 8 list, runs 2. So you know what? If so many people put 2, they're not the only 2 as well. If so many people put 2, we're just gonna throw 2 in the core and everyone's gonna say it's 2, which is just funny. I'm propagating that, no worries. The big things though that you are going to see in this are these cards right here. These are all staples and they're all very powerful for very specific reasons. Command and Conquer is perfect for swapping in with Uzuri Switchblade. It turns off the ability for them to react with defense reactions if they don't respond to this first effect. And that's quite good. It can win you some games. Death Touch is another fantastic switch in option. In fact, it's one of the best in the entire game because when they don't block this correctly and you swap this in, you just make them really sad by giving them any of these tokens that fits you best. And sometimes it's just an extra 2 damage. Enlightened Strike is like the glue that can, act as anything you really want it to do. You can draw a card off this and then snap it if you're running snaps, or you can draw a card off this and then just arsenal that card, which is totally fine. You can choose +2 and then snap it. You can choose go again and then continue on a longer chain turn. But again, this is allowing you to just play aggressively or play flexibly depending on the matchup. Infect and all of these isolates, as well as sedate, are all of our stealth cards. And these are great stealth cards because isolate in particular guarantees a 1-card block to this during the blocking portion, which means when you play an isolate, you want to swap into something else. Like you want to swap in a shakedown, for example, because you've guaranteed that they either have to defense react this or you're getting the on hit. And so this is why we see every list run 9x isolate. Isolate is just the best option right now for this deck and for going, either wide or going just tall, quote unquote, via the Uzuri switch ability, because it forces a 1-card block and not a 2-card block. Infect is one of those that just allows you to play it and just be happy with its damage because it also creates a blood rot. This is effectively a 0 for 5 if your opponent does not respect it. And if they do, then it takes a card from them and you swap it perhaps into something else. Same thing with Sedate. Sedate is a 0 for 3, but it takes away the opponent's arsenal so that they have to play their turn completely differently, and that is quite good for you. Now, Leave No Witnesses is just one of those key cards as well that allows you to blow up arsenals and basically requires a block of some sort. This is like the Command and Conquer Light. But it costs nothing, which is great. And you can switch into it as well. Don't hate on not switching into that card. You totally do that. And then we have Nimblism, a card that has been around since Welcome to Wraith. Along with Arcane Rising's Ravenous Rabble, these two cards are perennial powerhouses. But Nimblism kind of falls out of favor from time to time, and now it's back because you can combine it with E-Strike and go E-Strike for 10. And that is a nice little 2 to 3 card hand after you've already blocked. Keep in mind, we can play efficiently, and perhaps in some cases more efficiently than most heroes, by blocking with 2 cards and then presenting a 2-card hand for upwards of 10. If this is in our arsenal, for example, we can play Nimblism, bottom the other card in hand, playing the E-Strike, and that's E-Strike for 10 after blocking for 6. That is quite good rates across the board. And Ravenous Rabble is one of the most interesting cards in this deck because it serves dual purpose. As it stands on its own, Ravenous Rabble is a 0 for usually 4 in this deck with Go Again, because if we are running all of these reds, maybe we hit some isolates and some number of these shreds are in there, but perhaps not all of them. This is oftentimes a 0 for 4. You can consider it a 0 for 4 because it's going to hit a red more often than not. But it is also a swap target for Uzuri Switchblade's effect, because if she switches Ravenous Rabble in, the effect here does not trigger. You do not reveal the top, you simply attack for 5, and you get the Go Again trigger here as well, because that resolves at the end of the chain link resolution. So you can essentially go like, I don't know, Dagger into Isolate, into Swap for Ravenous Rabble for 5, into E-Strike. Like, that is a kind of a nasty little turn. It's very, very cool. Additionally, you also have all the shreds we talked about, which you could run some number of. And you do want to check the number of assassin attack action cards you have currently and consider how many of these you're going to run. Shakedown's fantastic because you could also just play Shakedown and then shred on top of your Shakedown to trigger its effect, but it basically just allows you to banish a card, taking a card away. And then Codex of Frailty. Do we even need to talk about that card? It's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. So this makes up the core of what you want to do. Play efficiently, make it difficult for your opponent to know what's coming next. As far as the sideboard is concerned, you've got your casual Fate Foreseen Sink Below package of defense. Plague Hive, if you want to play Plague Hive, you can. It's included in the sideboard and technically in both of these lists. I would probably say this is probably sideboard. You don't want to splash too many yellows and blues into this deck for just a variety of reasons, because you want to be pushing damage. But you could include Plague Hive for the incidental, like, long game where you pitch this multiple times and possibly get Blood Rot. It makes a good little fatigue target for possibly getting the extra damage along the way. And then you have your Vambrace for the old guy, Snapdragons for faster matchups, Scale Peeler for the old guy, because it makes it really uncomfortable for him blocking with equipment, and then Arcane Lantern because wizards can do things and it's painful, right? So this is basically our core. Now, there's still a large number of slots. So let's talk about some things that other people have included, and I want to go to these two lists, and I want to show you what they included to give you inspiration as to what you could include. So Sam here included attack reactions like Spike with Blood Rot, which is a fantastic attack reaction on your stealth cards. Razor's Edge, which just gives +3 and makes most of these things, like a 6. For example, this is like a red is like a 6 Dominate if you play the Razor's Edge on it. Or it's a 6 Dominate with, it gains, if it hits, give a Blood Rot Pox. That's really nutty. It's really disgusting. So you can include attack reactions. Here we have 5 attack reactions in the deck. You can include, and I recommend, at least 3 more stealth cards with this core being our base. So including 3 more stealth cards so that we can have a, I would say a critical mass of the right amount of stealth cards would be quite good. And we also see the top 8 in Richmond deck list have some number of attack reactions, not a ton, but also include, where was the other stealth card? There it is, Infiltrate, a fantastic one. This is one of my favorite ones. I personally include this in my CC list because I just like it. It just makes me really happy. They also, if you noticed, included Plunder the Poor because it's a 0 for 4 and could possibly trigger the contract and make it a little easier to recur the black tech in a little bit of a longer game. Also, they included Surgical Extraction, which again is a good swap-in target, along with Humble. And that's the way that this list leans. This list leans a little bit more into bringing in some bigger swaps. So we have Humbles, which is great. Surgical Extraction. Pitches Blue can be swapped in. Deals 4, can be shredded. Has a disgusting on hit. Could get you more tokens. Could get you more silver to swap in. I personally think I'm going to start including this again in my list. I took it out for a little bit just because I wanted to go really Redline, and I think I'm going to bring it back in. So those are some things and some considerations to pad out this. So this was just swapping in with the mentality of we're playing efficiently. We're including a critical mass of stealth cards. We have some number of attack reactions that we can punish our opponent for if they misread what our hand is going to do. We have more use for the Tunic resource with Spike with Blood Rot, and we're pushing more overall swapability with things like Surgical. Now, if you don't like the attack reactions, swap in things like Humble, or for example, Cut Down to Size, which I actually also very much like as well. And we could even sub out like, I don't know, Razor's Edge, for example, or Spike with Blood Rot and play either of those instead. But this hopefully gives you an idea of what the deck wants to do, where it wants to go, and how it wants to attack its just overall game plan into other opponents. If you enjoy this type of breakdown content, let me know in a comment below, and let me know what you think about Uzuri's chances in the upcoming Pro Tour Baltimore. I want to hear from you. Do you think Uzuri's going to hit top 8 again? It top 8'd the last 2 tournaments. I mean, Sam Dando got it, and Azura Strife got there in Richmond. So, I mean, I'm just saying it could very well top 8 here as well. If you enjoy this, make a number climb up, and eventually that number will become right there. That number will become a 3, and 3s are better than 2. I don't know, that's what I heard. As always, thanks for watching.